So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about New York FarmNet. My name is Adam Howell. I originally come from Central Illinois farm country, moved here about 10 years ago, and I have a background in public communications, public policy, rural outreach and communications. So in the past, I've worked for state government in Illinois, working on local issues. And then here in New York, I've worked at Cornell at the local roads program, and then now at FarmNet. So I'm really into these sort of like boots on the ground community issues, these things that really affect local rural populations and people out in the field doing things. So this is our FarmNet team. We are a full-time staff team of 6 people, but because we are out in the field, so to speak, working with farmers, most of our team is remote. I live in Ithaca, or well, technically I live in Lansing, but I live in the Ithaca region. I'm remote. Greg Merck, our director, he lives in the Hudson Valley. Michael Robertson also lives in the Hudson Valley. He is the person in charge of managing our financial consultants. Becky Wiseman, she lives all the way out on Long Island. So she's got a hike whenever she comes to training meetings and things like that. But she is in charge of all of our family consultants, our social workers. Melanie Moss is our program administrator. She makes sure we spend within our means and keeps the trains running on time and everything. She lives in Tioga County. And then Kendra Jensen is our education and research specialist. She does a lot of things with students and with some sort of specialty outreach things. And she lives north of me in Cayuga County. So we do have an office in Ithaca, though. So we're on campus every now and then. I will say that the heart and soul of our team, though, is our consultants. Now, our consultants are based all around the state. We do bring them together to train on various topics and things. About 3 times a year, we hold an in-person full consultant meeting. But the cool thing is that they are the ones out in the field doing the work of New York FarmNet, which I'll actually explain what we do here in a second. But they are local to the regions they serve. They are intimately familiar with the agriculture, types of communities and the populations that they're working in and around. They are part-time. They are flexible, and most of them, well, no, not most of them, all of them have some sort of agricultural background and experience. Even our social workers who deal with the mental health side of things, we try to recruit people who have a background in agriculture, a familiarity with rural culture, things like that. So we really go for a team that has a lot of lived experience. Here's just a map that kind of shows all the locations that we have people in. As you might expect, the densest populations of where our consultants are located are in the big agricultural regions of the state. And then there's kind of a gap around the Adirondacks and a few other places. But we really do have people usually within an hour of the farmers that they're going to visit. So just a real quick bit of background about our program. We're coming up on our 40-year anniversary right now. We started in 1986 during the farm crisis of the 1980s. Now, anybody could be forgiven for not knowing what the farm crisis of the 80s is because unlike the Dust Bowl or the Great Depression, the farm crisis was really this calamity that was centered over the agricultural sector in the United States. And what it was it was essentially a credit bubble, a drop in commodity prices, a skyrocketing hike in input prices like fertilizer and seed and feed. It was a constriction in export markets because the Eastern Bloc countries at the time, the Soviet sphere of influence, our farmers could not sell to them. They were embargoed. And then there were a whole host of other things, credit constricted, and it led to a huge number of bankruptcies all across the country. But again, because it was an agriculturally focused crisis, instead of a whole of government approach, there were a lot of different regional solutions that were proposed. And then in New York, the FarmNet solution was to initially use the College of Ag and Life Sciences through Cornell, because Cornell is a land grant college, as you all know, has a really extensive cooperative extension system, and establish basically like a hotline, a 1-800 line where any farmer that's suffering from financial distress at the time could contact 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and seek advice, support, consultation. And the cool thing is that over time, we are a program that has built our services through experience. So what happened was initially we only had financial consultants, people with backgrounds in farm business management, running farms, lending, and things like that. And they were going out to farms and they were reporting back that the problems that these farms were facing were not just financial. There were problems like substance abuse, family conflict, depression, anxiety. And as you can imagine, somebody who's an expert in farm business management is not qualified or experienced in dealing with these underlying human factors and mental health factors that were driving the poor financial outcomes in many cases. So that is where we really developed a holistic model where we actually started to hire social workers to accompany the financial consultants when they would go to these farms and like I said, create this holistic service approach. These are just some basic statistics. You are all probably aware of sort of the mental health crisis, the substance abuse crisis, and the many other kind of declining social determinants of mental health that affect agriculture. Um, the uh, the CDC statistic that says that farmers and ranchers are 2 times more likely to die by suicide. That's actually only one of many statistics. I have seen the National Rural Health Association says that their studies show that farmers are 3.5 times more likely to die by suicide than those in other professions. I've seen another study that says 5.5 times. The point is that farming, unfortunately, because of a variety of factors that we'll talk about, there's much poorer mental health outcomes related to farming than there are in most other professions. And by the way, you'll notice that my presentation is actually punctuated with pictures of our real clients, people that have agreed to be showcased or focused. And this person right here is Chris Pavelski. He's actually in a documentary about farmer suicide and mental health, and he's a former client of ours that has become a national advocate for farmer mental health. So if you're interested in the documentary, it's free. You can just search Muckville, Muckville, and it's a very short documentary. I think it's less than 20 minutes, but it talks about his journey as an onion farmer, like a third generation onion farmer that was about to lose the farm, and the mental health struggles that ensued. Um, Financially, unfortunately, the story hasn't gotten much better. The 2022 Census of Ag numbers just came out, and it's showing a continued decline in the number of farms in the United States, both in terms of consolidation, but also just in terms of straight bankruptcy. The acreage footprint of farms is declining across the country. A lot of that has to do with development pressure. A lot of that has to do with the fact that there just aren't farmers left to take over farms in many areas of the country. So the business side of managing a farm in these areas is just giving out. And sadly, farmers are also increasing in average age, which is causing a lot of other knock-on effects, as you can imagine. The stress, both on your body and your mind, of trying to hold together an enterprise is as difficult as farming into your 50s or 60s. In some cases, I've even seen 70s and 80s. That's a pretty heavy toll it takes on people. So this is kind of an interesting mantra, so to speak, that sort of encapsulates our program approach, and it'll make your head hurt if you say it too fast. But essentially, how do you know what you don't know? If you don't know, you don't know it. What we mean by that is farmers are oftentimes amazing, jacks of all trades. They are wonderful at farming. They're wonderful at fixing things. They're wonderful at being flexible and solving problems with innovation, but they can't be perfect at everything. And oftentimes, the struggles of farming, the actual actions of farming, take away time from farmers knowing what questions to ask when they are approaching retirement, when they are approaching an inflection point in the business where they might need to try something new and different. Farmers, especially in rural areas where services aren't readily available, they're definitely not going to be experienced at dealing with mental health or family communication. Remember, farms are oftentimes family businesses, and I know my family gets into it every now and then. Now imagine the added pressure of different siblings, different aunts and uncles, sons and daughters, all vested in the business, all necessarily with different ideas about the business and having different levels of activity in running the business. It can get messy quick, and easy there's no course or easy methodology for managing that sort of a situation whenever you are a family that is also running a 24/7, 365 business together. So this kind of I got to rework these slides. This kind of buries the lead, but here's our core services. So right now, New York FarmNet provides 100% free, 100% confidential on-farm consulting to any farmer in New York State. Now, when I say any farmer in New York State, I mean everyone from shellfish producers off Long Island to maple producers in the North Country. We work with honey producers. We work with obviously dairy because New York's still a dairy state, but crop producers, organic, direct or retail vegetable producers. We work with people who I came back from a farm not too long ago where the family was raising alpacas to create a very niche type of consumer plant fertilizer. I've even seen a case where we worked with somebody who was raising worms in their apartment in Brooklyn, and they were a client of ours, and they were producing again a very specific type of worm casting based commodity fertilizer, not commodity fertilizer, a specialty fertilizer for people who have houseplants in New York City. So we work with everything. We do have a 24/7 hotline, still in service today, 1-800-547-3276. People can call us anytime, or they can fill out a web form on our website and request services. And then one thing that we've been really trying to expand is our Spanish language support services, because the footprint and the makeup of agricultural producers in New York State has been changing in the last few decades. There are more people who are Spanish speaking laborers or farm owners even who are taking on a bigger role in upstate New York, especially in the agricultural community. So it's really critical that we're able to reach those people as well. Um, so our process is really simple. We do evaluate people when they call. We're not perfect for every situation, but we do work on a wide variety of things. So when somebody calls, Becky and Michael, who are our family and financial consultant managers, respectively, will evaluate the caller, take down as much information as possible, and then decide whether to assign a consultant team to actually visit that farm. And it is important that at least once, in most cases, our consultants will go to the farm. That's part of a trust building and authentic. I'm just going to go with trust building. My tongue's tied. Trust building approach that we have. People feel much more comfortable when we visit them in their homes, and we have sort of a informal slogan that is like the best solutions are actually found at the kitchen table. One of the barriers that we discovered early on to farmers seeking mental health support, especially, is that even if it was available in their local area, they would be reluctant to go into a county mental health facility or to see a therapist in town because they'd be afraid that people in these small communities who know who they are would see them. Which is why going to the farm is so critical to getting farmers to actually embrace the concept of mental health services. So now I did say that we don't work on everything. We work on most things, but we don't work on everything. The reason for that is if a farmer is having a very scientific challenge or a very specific sort of issue, think of integrated pest management or calculating the amount of protein that is in their dairy cattle feed. There are better programs for that, and we'll refer them to Pro Dairy or the Cornell Integrated Pest Management Program if there is a better solution. Ultimately, everybody that we work with have one goal, and that's helping farmers thrive. So if there's a better program that has more specialized expertise, we'll send those clients to them. But again, on the margins, that's only where those things live. We work with most everything that's general. So I won't read everything off, but here's just some of the things that we actually deal with on a daily basis. Business transfers, like I said, succession planning is a big one. Personal well-being, stress, beginning farming, especially since we have a lot of former lenders, ag lenders in our consultant team. It can be daunting for first-time farmers to put together, let's say, an FSA loan application. And again, communication is a big one, especially when you've got different generations, all with an interest in a farm, with different ideas on how that farm should grow or change in the future. So our family consultants who are licensed social workers, they are very, very good at providing a moderated, productive setting for family communication. Um, this is kind of self-explanatory. We already went over this. Our consultants, they work together. So after they meet with a client, they will oftentimes case conference and debrief each other, and they will work together on building the best plan for the client that they can. Also, every consultant has access to the entire consultant team. We do monthly Zoom meetings. Like I already said, we get together 3 times a year for in-person trainings. So really, whenever somebody contacts FarmNet, they're getting the experience and the depth of expertise of 45 to 50 people who are all experienced in agriculture in some way, shape, or form, either on the mental health side or on the financial management side. Um, One thing I like to mention, especially with this slide, is that we are not just a program that is here for people or farms that are in crisis. We like to be here for people that have good things happening too. And the reason I say that is you can be a successful farm and so successful that you're ready to expand your operations, or maybe you have a really good business plan and you're ready to start farming. But as anybody who's worked on anything really in depth or intimately knows, you can be too close to the problem, and it's always good to have a second set of eyes. Just take a look at, do you have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed? Have you considered all of the things that might come up? Have you done a SWOT analysis for a business plan if you're looking to expand your operations? And a lot of things that we do with beginning farmers are we pre-prep them for the kinds of stresses and the emotional tolls that farming can take. People who aren't used to it as part of their cultural background, they may not be used to the fact that there are so many highs and lows and big swings in what can happen to farms, whether it's weather, whether it's the price of a commodity, whether it's animal and herd health, or it's just getting used to the fact that there's no such thing as a weekend or an evening off. Crops, animals, they have to be managed some way, shape, or form. So people have a hard time adjusting to that. So we work a lot with students and we work a lot with beginning farmers, even if they're in a good place, just trying to prepare them even more to be resilient. We already kind of went into that, but essentially, basically, that's my point is that I wish everybody out there would call us at some point of time just to get us to take a look at their farm. A lot of times, our consultants will report back that they wish that the client would have called us like 3 years before they did, and that's just because sometimes we'll get calls when the low hanging fruit solutions or the sort of backstopping that needs to be done, if that time has already passed and the solutions become a little bit more dire. So we like people to call us at any time, even when things are good. This is just some of the things that our financial consultants do. And again, some of the things that our family consultants do. This picture is Fred Lee, a consult or a client that we worked with out on Long Island, and the Cornell Chronicle actually did a whole feature story and went out and did some video. So another thing, if you're interested in sort of a styled video about what we do, you can just search New York FarmNet in the Cornell Chronicle, and there's a really cool story in there that features Fred Lee. That's Becky Wiseman, by the way, our family consultant case supervisor. So the best way to understand kind of the things we do, and I'll go through these. I won't linger too much on these, but I just like to give a few examples of some clients that we've helped. I do want to point out that even though we're totally confidential, I do feature some of our past clients who give permission to be featured in our annual report, which is on our website. And it really kind of takes the words from their mouths about what we did, who we are, how we helped, and it gives a lot of actual, sort of culture and color on these things. So this is a great example of a new first generation Hispanic farmer in Cayuga County. I actually got to go up and see their operation, but at this farm, the farmers are actually they save their money after working for another farmer, and they transitioned into their own operation, raising specialty types of cattle that are then sold to the farmers that finish them or feed them to full growth. But so they raise like Wagyu or other types of specialty beef varieties, and we help them with the financial planning, the loan application, and things like that. Yaleville Farm is near and dear to my heart because it's one of the stories that I really love to see at FarmNet. This was the first farm I ever got to visit right after starting at FarmNet. And what this is this was a small farm down in Shenango County, where the siblings were all grown up, retired, and it hadn't been an active farm for many years. And there was one sibling who inherited the property that wanted to not sell it, wanted to keep it going, but it wasn't set up. It's not big enough or have facilities enough for production commodity agriculture. So what we did was we helped them think outside the box. And now Marianne White, who's the owner, she does three things. She has this beautiful a huge amount of acreage that's just basically wildflowers. So she raises honey. She raises honeybees and produces honey for sale. That beautiful field is also the perfect location for glamping. So agrotourism and glamping. She actually runs a summer glamping operation that has these big, beautiful tents, and people from the city pay top dollar just to be able to see the stars, if you can imagine. And she also runs a summer camp for kids who want to experience some nature and learn some skills. So she's applied for some grants and been successful, and really turned it into a sustainable operation that can keep the historic property alive and in the family. But because she's near retirement age, she also has enough revenue to accomplish that goal and still go to Florida every winter. So it's a really innovative success story. The Ronosky Farm is another great example of a family that we helped get into farming, but it also illustrates something that I hadn't mentioned yet. We don't have a time limit on how long we will work with farmers. We will work with farmers for years, and again, always free. So we've been working with this family since 2018 to develop a business plan, find land, get financing, deal with the emotional and family-oriented stressors that come with, starting an operation like this. And I believe I have not visited this farm, but I believe they raise everything from poultry to also cattle and a few vegetable and row crops. But really just evolve this process of wanting to get into farming into an actual thriving operation and being with them every step of the way. Two consultants that are constantly checking in with them, who kept working with them after they found the farm to buy, help them adjust their business plans as they got used to the property, and they are still clients to this day. And then finally, this is the alpaca. This is the family that is raising alpacas for specialty fertilizer. They also do different things like fruits and vegetables and berries. But the really cool thing is this is sort of a second act for the family. The two sisters who have gotten into this, they are both doctors. Actually, I'm sorry, one is a doctor and one is a different type of medical professional. But they they continue in their successful careers while they're also starting a farm, which is kind of like a long family dream of theirs. And they're doing these specialty commodities and developing this property that we help them learn how to acquire. And it shows that farming doesn't have to be what a lot of people think of in terms of the barriers of getting into it. There are multiple ways of entering into farming. And in fact, over 80% of farmers today, especially in New York, have off-farm income. So it can be a supplemental job, and that doesn't make anybody less of a farmer. Um, so just some numbers about our program. These are 2024 numbers. They do fluctuate quite a bit depending on what's going on in the world, what's going on in New York State. But we get around anywhere between 500 and 600 calls a year into our 800 line, and anywhere between 300 and 350 cases are started every year. Last year we were about three off what that normal average is. But as you can see, the footprint is quite large. You know, over 180,000 acres of farmland because we work with farmers for indefinite periods of time. We will always have more cases active than new cases coming in. So 460 active cases at the time I put together this report. I think we're at about 530 now. And this sort of footprint represents, millions of dollars, and that grows and changes all the time. And it represents, hundreds of workers. If you go back to 1986 when our program was founded, and I wish I had data going back this far, but our program has had billions of dollars of impact and tens of thousands of people served. It's really incredible that and we're lucky that we're supported by the state to be able to make this happen, because it is a difficult thing in terms of budget, in terms of having the people available to do this kind of work. We're very dependent upon referrals. We do advertising, we go to conferences, but really it's the CCE system, the FSA system, other ag lenders like Farm Credit East, Farm Bureau. Most of our cases come from referrals or other farmers who have been clients in the past. Again, just some program outcomes. I'm actually working on a brand new program evaluation, but most of the vast majority of the farmers who worked with us remained in farming. And that 78% of clients who stated they could call FarmNet again, it's a little bit of a misleading statistic, because some of those that statistic would be a lot higher, but it also includes succession planning cases where we've helped people retire and get out of farming. So they're not going to call us again because they don't need to. So I should probably put a little asterisk or a caveat with that. We do a lot of other activities. In fact, Haley and I were talking about this beforehand. We've tried to expand our footprint of services to help not just individual farmers, but create a holistically healthier farming economy and farming culture in New York State. So we have several people who are certified in things like mental health awareness. Talk Saves Lives is a 1 hour presentation about suicide, interrupting the common pathways towards suicidal ideation. It's a community-based approach. We do stress management presentations. We work with students a lot. We work with CCEs a lot. And we also do financial-based presentations like succession planning or tax awareness. I already mentioned we work with students a lot. Here's some scenes from Cornell's campus. I'm forgetting the actual name of the fraternity, but we work with the ag the Cornell Ag fraternity on campus quite a bit. We do a stress management barbecue basically every spring, and then we do a lot of our Talk Saves Lives classes for students, especially in the vet school. A lot of people don't know this, but the mental health outcomes for veterinary students are actually shockingly bad. It's an incredibly stressful academic program to go into. And sadly, across the country, there are lots of vet students that actually commit suicide every year. So we do some of this work with the vet college quite a bit. And then, of course, we put together, we have an e-newsletter. We put together a lot of articles and resources. We have all this expertise in the form of our consultants. We like to use it even for those people who can't be consult or be clients of ours. So our website is full of articles and things that we've written as a program specifically for farmers in New York State. Um, this is just a little quote from Ag and Markets Commissioner Ball about FarmNet. Again, we're funded by the Department of Agriculture and Markets with New York State and the Department of Mental Health. So Richard Ball is a big supporter and a big and a great partner, and he's a farmer himself. And then just recently, I just put this in my deck last night. Chris Wolf at Cornell was invited to testify in front of the United States Senate, literally last week, if I'm not mistaken, about the challenges facing the aging farmer population and other factors facing farmers. And both him and Senator Gillibrand actually mentioned FarmNet quite a bit as a unique support model and approach for helping agriculture in New York State. Well, and across the country, if we're lucky. These are just some of our supporters. We do get some of the some training support from the big ag lenders throughout the state. And then the last thing I'll leave you with, and again, I'm kind of moving a little bit quicker than I normally would because we have a smaller group of people, so we can chat afterwards as well. But we don't want people to confuse our program with a crisis intervention line. 988 is where somebody should call if they are in mental health crisis. 911 if they're in physical crisis. We're not trained to be interventionists, so I just always leave people with that bit of information. And there's just some general contact info. So our website, again, great resource with a lot of information, including our annual reports. If you want to read more stories about the farmers we've helped, and then our program email, we're very responsive. Anybody who may not even know if they're a fit for our services, I recommend they just contact us anyway, and if we can't help them, we'll find somebody who can. So